The escape pod's emergency beacon had stopped working 3 days ago, leaving Jenna Vale stranded on Nexus Station with nothing but the torn jumpsuit on her back and desperation clawing at her chest. The mining colony she'd called home for 2 years was nothing but floating debris now, consumed by the same alien plague that had already devoured 12 human settlements across the outer rim. She pressed her face against the grimy viewport of the station's docking bay, watching ships come and go like distant stars. Each departure felt like another door slamming shut on her chances of survival. The credits she'd managed to salvage from her personal account wouldn't buy her passage to the nearest human world, let alone somewhere safe from the spreading devastation. Her reflection stared back at her from the transparent aluminum, dark circles under green eyes that had once sparkled with ambition. Her auburn hair hung limp around her shoulders, and her jumpsuit, once pristine engineering whites, was now stained with hydraulic fluid and fierce wet. She looked exactly like what she was, a refugee with no options left. You thinking about it, honey? The voice behind her was rough and knowing. Jenna turned to see Vex, a Cantoran trader whose scales gleamed with artificial enhancement. His 4 eyes studied her with the calculating gaze of someone who made his living off others. Desperation. The body trade pays well for human females, especially ones with your particular assets. Jenna's stomach twisted, but she didn't back down. She'd been hearing whispers about it for days. Human women were considered exotic throughout the galaxy. Their emotional depth and physical responsiveness prized by wealthy collectors and pleasure seekers. It wasn't legal in most systems, but legality meant little in the lawless stations scattered across the frontier. How much? The words tasted like ash in her mouth. But survival had stripped away her pride days ago. Vex's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile. For a full contract, enough to buy passage anywhere you want to go, maybe even enough to start over somewhere nice and safe. His scaled fingers drummed against the viewport. Of course, full contracts usually run 5 to 10 years, depending on the buyer's preferences. 5 to 10 years of being someone's property, someone's plaything. Jenna closed her eyes, trying to imagine any alternative. But every scenario ended the same way. Slowly starving on this forgotten station, or worse, being here when the plague finally reached this sector. There's a high roller coming in tonight, Vex continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. Prince travels with a full pleasure fleet. He's got a particular taste for human females who know their way around starship systems. An engineer like you? He'd pay premium prices. The words hit her like a physical blow. Not just her body, but her mind, her skills, everything. She was reduced to a commodity for some alien aristocrat's entertainment. But what choice did she have? The alternative was death, slow and inevitable. I need to think about it, she whispered. Don't think too long, sweetheart. Opportunities like this don't come around often. As Vex slithered away, Jenna sank onto a nearby bench, her hands shaking. She tried to picture herself in 5 years, 10 years, serving at the whim of some creature who saw her as nothing more than an exotic pet. The image made her physically ill, but the alternative was becoming one with the void that had already claimed so many human worlds. She was still sitting there, wrestling with the impossible choice, when the docking bay's massive doors cycled open with a thunderous clang. The ship that glided through was unlike anything she'd seen before, sleek and predatory. Its hull a deep midnight blue that seemed to drink in the station's harsh artificial light. It moved with the grace of something built for speed and stealth. Settling onto the landing pad with barely a whisper of displaced air, the boarding ramp lowered with mechanical precision. And a figure emerged that made Jenna's breath catch in her throat. He was human, unmistakably so, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Tall and lean, with dark hair that caught the light and features that belonged in ancient sculptures, he moved through the docking bay like he owned it. Their eyes met across the crowded space, and Jenna felt something electric arc between them. His gaze was deep brown, almost black, and when he looked at her, she felt like he was seeing straight through to her soul. For a moment, the noise and chaos of the station faded away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of sudden, intense awareness. He changed direction, walking toward her with purpose. "You look like someone who's run out of options," he said, his voice low and rich with an accent she couldn't place. "I'm Cale Thorne, and I might be able to help." "Anything to pay you with?" Jenna replied, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "Unless you're looking for the same thing everyone else seems to want." Something dark flashed in his eyes. "I'm not everyone else." He held out his hand. "What's your name?" "Jenna Vale." She hesitated, then took his hand. His skin was warm, calloused from work, and the contact sent an unexpected thrill through her. "I'm an engineer." "Who's an engineer?" "Now I'm just another refugee trying not to starve." "Engineers are valuable," Cale said, not releasing her hand. "Especially ones who know their way around quantum drive systems. Could use someone with your skills, and what would you want in return?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications. On a station where everything was for sale, especially human flesh, there was always a price. Cale's thumb brushed across her knuckles, a gesture so gentle it made her chest tighten. "Honest work for honest pay. Nothing you don't want to give." His eyes never left hers. "But I won't lie to you, Jenna. I'm not running a charity. The work is dangerous, the destination's questionable, and the cargo sometimes asks questions you don't want to answer. Still interested?" Before she could respond, Vex appeared at her shoulder, his scaled form radiating displeasure. "The lady and I were just concluding some business, human. Move along." Cale's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, becoming more predatory. "The lady can speak for herself." He looked at Jenna. "What's it going to be? A cage made of credits, or a chance to stay free?" Jenna looked between them. The trader who saw her as merchandise, and the mysterious captain who offered her something she'd thought was lost forever. Choice. The decision, when it came, was surprisingly easy. "I choose freedom," she said, standing. And moving to Cale's side, "When do we leave?" His smile was like sunlight after a long winter. "Right now, if you're ready." As they walked toward his ship, Jenna felt eyes following them from every corner of the docking bay. Word would spread quickly that a human woman had chosen honest work over the easier path of the pleasure trade. Some would think her foolish. Others might call her brave, but as Cale's hand found the small of her back, guiding her up the boarding ramp, Jenna realized she didn't care what anyone else thought. For the first time in months, she felt truly alive. The ship's interior was as impressive as its exterior, all clean lines and efficient design, but it was the way Cale looked at her, with respect and something deeper that made her pulse quicken. That told her she'd made the right choice. Whatever dangers lay ahead, whatever price she might eventually pay for her freedom, it would be her choice to make. And as the ship lifted off, carrying her away from Nexus Station and toward an uncertain future, Jenna felt something she hadn't experienced in far too long. Hope. The ship's name was painted in elegant script along the corridor wall. Stellar. Wanderer. Jenna traced the letters with her fingertips as Cale led her deeper into the vessel's heart. Everything about the ship spoke of careful maintenance and personal touches that transformed cold metal into something approaching home. "Your quarters are here," Cale said, stopping at a door that slid open at his touch. The room beyond was small, but comfortable, with a proper bed, storage compartments, and a viewport showing the stars streaming past as they jumped to hyperspace. "It's not much, but it's private and it's yours." Jenna stepped inside, running her hand over the soft fabric of the bed cover. After days of sleeping on station benches, it looked like paradise. "It's perfect." She turned to find Cale watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. "What kind of cargo are we carrying?" Something shifted in his expression, a wall sliding into place. "The kind that pays well and doesn't ask questions." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his scent, clean and masculine, with a hint of something exotic. "That's not what you're really asking, is it?" Jenna's breath caught as he reached up to brush a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle but electric, sending shivers down her spine. "I'm asking if I can trust you." "You already have," he said softly. "You chose to come aboard my ship with a complete stranger. Either you're very brave or very desperate. Maybe both." The words came out breathier than she intended. The space between them seemed to crackle with tension, and Jenna found herself leaning closer despite every rational thought screaming warnings. Before either could close the distance, a soft chime echoed through the ship. Kale stepped back, the spell broken. "We have another passenger coming aboard, someone I'm transporting to the Meridian cluster." "Another refugee?" Jenna asked, trying to ignore the disappointment that flooded through her. "Not exactly." Kale's jaw tightened. "Her name is Zara Nixel. She's Valathian nobility, traveling under diplomatic immunity. Try to stay out of her way." The warning in his tone made Jenna's stomach knot with unease. "What aren't you telling me?" But Kale was already moving toward the door. "Get some rest. We'll be making the pickup in a few hours, and after that, things might get complicated." Alone in her quarters, Jenna tried to follow his advice, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Kale's face, felt the ghost of his touch on her cheek. The attraction between them was undeniable, but she sensed he was holding back, keeping secrets that could prove dangerous. She was still tossing restlessly when the ship shuddered slightly, indicating they'd dropped out of hyperspace. Through her viewport, she could see a luxury yacht drifting nearby, its hull gleaming with precious metals and exotic alloys. Even from a distance, it radiated wealth and power. The docking procedure took nearly an hour, and when Jenna finally heard footsteps in the corridor, she pressed her ear to the door, curiosity overcoming caution. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Wanderer," she heard Kale say, his voice formal and cold. "Such a lovely ship," came the reply, a voice like liquid silk with an accent that made every word sound like a caress. "And such a handsome captain. Do so appreciate beautiful things." Jenna's hands clenched into fists. Even through the door, she could hear the seduction in that voice. The predatory interest that made her want to march out there and stake her claim on Kale. The intensity of her jealousy surprised her. She barely knew the man, had no right to feel possessive, but the emotion burned through her anyway. "Your quarters are prepared," Kale replied, still maintaining his professional distance. "We'll reach the Meridian cluster in 3 days." 3 whole days, the woman purred. "However, shall we pass the time?" Unable to stand it anymore, Jenna opened her door and stepped into the corridor. The woman standing near Kale was breathtaking in an otherworldly way. Her skin was deep crimson, smooth and flawless, and her hair fell in silver waves to her waist. She was tall and perfectly proportioned, wearing a gown that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. But it was her eyes that were truly striking. Solid gold with no visible pupils, ancient and knowing. "And who might this be?" Zara asked, those golden eyes fixing on Jenna with predatory interest. "Another of your crew, Captain?" "This is Jenna, my engineer," Kale said, stepping slightly between them. "Jenna, this is Lady Zara Nixel." Zara glided forward with fluid grace, and Jenna caught a scent like exotic flowers in ozone. "An engineer? How fascinating and human, unless I'm mistaken." She circled Jenna slowly, studying her like a specimen. Such an interesting species, so emotional, so passionate. I've always found humans quite delicious. The way she said delicious made Jenna's skin crawl and her pulse race simultaneously. There was something hypnotic about the Valathian, something that made it hard to look away despite every instinct screaming danger. "I should get back to the engine room," Jenna managed, backing toward the corridor that led to the ship's mechanical sections. "Oh, but we've only just met," Zara said, reaching out to trail one finger along Jenna's arm. The touch was cool and sent strange tingles through her nervous system. "I do so hope we'll have time to get better acquainted." Kale's hand closed around Zara's wrist, not roughly, but firmly. "Lady Nixel, perhaps you'd like to see your quarters now." For a moment, something dangerous flashed in those golden eyes, and Jenna felt the temperature in the corridor drop several degrees. Then Zara smiled, showing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. "Of course, Captain, lead the way." As they disappeared down another corridor, Jenna sagged against the wall, her heart pounding. And the way she'd looked at both Jenna and Kale suggested their passenger had appetites that went beyond diplomatic travel. The next day passed in tense awkwardness. Zara seemed to be everywhere, appearing in the common areas whenever Jenna was there, engaging her in conversations that felt like verbal chess matches. The Velathian was intelligent, cultured, and utterly captivating. But underneath her perfect manners lurked something predatory. "Your captain is quite attractive," Zara commented, as they shared dinner in the ship's small galley. Kale was on the bridge, running system diagnostics, leaving the two women alone. Such strong hands, such intense eyes. "I imagine he'd be quite passionate in more intimate circumstances." Jenna nearly choked on her food. "I wouldn't know, really?" Zara's smile was knowing. "But surely you've thought about it. The way you look at him, the way your pulse quickens when he's near. Human biology is so transparent. What do you want?" Jenna asked bluntly, tired of the games. Zara leaned back in her chair, studying Jenna with those unsettling golden eyes. "I want many things, dear Jenna. I want to reach my destination safely. I want to complete my mission. I want to understand what makes humans so special that entire civilizations fear them, fear us." Jenna laughed bitterly. "Oh, we're barely holding on to a handful of colonies. Half our worlds have been destroyed by the plague. The plague that conveniently targets only human settlements," Zara said softly. "The plague that appeared just as your species was beginning to make real inroads into galactic politics. How very unfortunate." The implications hit Jenna like a physical blow. "You're saying it's not natural?" "I'm saying very little, actually. But I will say this. Your species has a gift that others find threatening: ability to inspire loyalty. Across species lines, to form bonds that transcend biology. It's quite remarkable, really." Before Jenna could respond, Kale's voice crackled over the ship's comm system. "All hands to stations. We've got company, and they don't look friendly." Jenna rushed to the bridge, finding Kale bent over the sensor displays, his face grim. Through the main viewport, she could see 3 ships closing on their position, their hulls marked with symbols she didn't recognize. "Pirates?" she asked. "Worse," Kale replied. "Collectors. They specialize in acquiring rare specimens for private buyers." Zara glided onto the bridge, completely calm despite the danger. "How exciting. It's been ages since I've experienced a proper chase." "This isn't a game," Kale snapped. "If they board us, they'll take both of you. Human females are worth a fortune on the black market, and Velathian nobility would be an even bigger prize." "Then I suggest you don't let them board," Zara said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The lead ship was hailing them now, demanding they prepared to be boarded. Kale's hand hovered over the weapon controls, but Jenna could see the desperation in his stance. They were outnumbered and outgunned. "There might be another way," Zara said quietly. "But it would require trust between all of us. Complete trust." Kale turned to stare at her. "What are you talking about?" Zara's form began to shimmer, and suddenly she was no longer quite solid, her edges blurring like heat distortion. "I am not merely Velathian nobility, Captain. I am something far older, far more dangerous, and if you'll let me, I can ensure our escape." "What's the price?" Kale demanded, Zara's golden eyes fixed on Jenna. "One night. One night with your precious engineer, to understand what makes humans so special. That is my price for our freedom." The blood drained from Jenna's face, but before she could speak, Kale stepped protectively in front of her. "Out of the way." "There is no other way," Zara said, her voice taking on harmonics that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull. "Choose quickly, Captain. They're charging weapons." Jenna looked at the approaching ships, then at Kale's rigid back, then at an alien entity that had been masquerading as a passenger. The choice, when it came, was surprisingly clear. "I'll do it," she said quietly. Both Kale and Zara turned to stare at her. "Jenna, no," Kale said. "It's my choice," she replied firmly. "And I choose to save us all." Zara smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuinely pleased rather than predatory. "Fascinating. You would sacrifice yourself for beings you barely know. Perhaps I begin to understand." She turned to Kale. "Don't look so stricken, Captain. I have no intention of harming your mate. Quite the opposite, actually." The word mate hung in the air between them as Zara began to change, her form becoming something of shadow and starlight. Whatever she truly was, Jenna realized, Their survival now depended entirely on the mercy of something ancient and powerful. And as the first energy blasts lit up the void around them, she wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life for the last. Love conquers all species. The transformation was breathtaking and terrifying. Zara's physical form dissolved into something that existed between dimensions, her consciousness expanding beyond the confines of flesh and bone. Tendrils of pure energy erupted from where she had stood, reaching out to touch the ship's systems with impossible precision. "Hold on to something," she whispered, her voice now coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The stellar wanderer lurched forward with acceleration that should have crushed them all, but somehow they felt only a gentle pressure. Through the viewport, Jenna watched the attacking ships fall behind, as if they were standing still. Space itself seemed to bend around them, stars stretching into brilliant lines as they slipped between the folds of reality. "Impossible," Cale breathed, his hands gripping the pilot's controls even though the ship was flying itself. "No technology can do this." "Technology." Zara's laughter echoed from the ship's walls. "Dear Captain, I am far older than your species. First glimpse of fire? I am what your ancestors might have called a goddess, though I prefer to think of myself as merely evolved." The ship shuddered as they dropped back into normal space, the pursuing vessels nowhere to be seen. Zara's form began to solidify again, though she seemed more translucent than before, as if the effort had drained her. "The bargain," she said, her golden eyes finding Jenna. "One night to understand humanity's secret. Are you still willing?" Jenna's mouth was dry, but she nodded. "A deal is a deal." "No." Cale stepped between them again, his jaw set with determination. "I won't let you use her like some kind of experiment." Zara tilted her head, studying him with ancient eyes. "Use her? Oh, Captain, you misunderstand." "Entirely. I don't wish to use her. I wish to understand her. To understand what makes humans capable of such profound connections, that entire galactic powers see you as a threat." "The plague," Jenna said softly. "You said it wasn't natural." "Created by the Hegemony Council," Zara confirmed. "A bioweapon designed to eliminate humanity before you could spread your dangerous gift throughout the galaxy. The gift of inspiring absolute loyalty, of forming bonds that transcend species, politics, even self-preservation." Cale's face went pale. "That's why you're really here, isn't it? You're studying us," Zara admitted. "The Council tasked me with understanding your species' weaknesses, finding ways to exploit them. But watching you two, seeing the way you care for each other, despite knowing each other for barely a day, I find myself questioning everything I thought I knew." She moved closer to Jenna, her movements fluid and hypnotic. "The bargain I proposed was meant to be scientific observation. But now I realize what I truly need to understand cannot be observed from the outside. It must be experienced." "Experienced how?" Jenna asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Zara reached out, her fingers stopping just short of Jenna's cheek. "My species experiences emotion through direct neural connection. Physical touch, but of the mind rather than the body. I want to feel what you feel, to understand the depth of connection that makes humans so dangerous to those who would rule through fear. And if I refuse, then I will honor our bargain and deliver you safely to your destination. But the Council will continue their genocide, and humanity will die not knowing they possess the greatest gift in the galaxy." Jenna looked at Cale, seeing the conflict in his dark eyes. He wanted to protect her, but he also understood the stakes. If Zara could be turned from enemy to ally, it might mean salvation for their entire species. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Jenna said. "Finally, allow me to link with your mind while you experience the deepest emotion you're capable of. Love, desire, connection, whatever drives the bonds your species forms. Let me feel it as you feel it." Jenna's cheeks burned as she realized what Zara was suggesting. To feel love and desire, she would need to be experiencing them. And there was only one person in the galaxy who could inspire those feelings in her right now. "Cale," she said softly, turning to face him. "I need you to trust me, to trust us." His expression softened as he saw the determination in her eyes. "Jenna, you don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," she replied, stepping closer to him. "Not for the bargain, not for humanity, but for us." Because I'm tired of running from what I feel, tired of pretending that what's between us isn't real. She reached up to cup his face in her hands, feeling the rough stubble against her palms. I've been attracted to you since the moment I saw you in that docking bay. You saved me from a fate worse than death, and now I want to save you from the loneliness I see in your eyes. Cale's breath caught. Jenna, I'm not a good man. I've done things, made choices that would horrify you if you knew. I don't care about your past, she whispered, rising on her toes to bring her lips closer to his. I care about who you are right now in this moment. I care about the man who offered me freedom when everyone else saw only a commodity. Their lips met in a kiss that sent electricity through every nerve in Jenna's body. Cale's arms came around her, pulling her against him, as if he were afraid she might disappear. The kiss deepened, becoming desperate and hungry. All the tension and attraction of the past day exploding into pure desire.
Fascinating,
Zara murmured from somewhere nearby, but her voice seemed distant, unimportant. The kiss, in the feel of Cale's hands tangled in her hair, in the way he whispered her name against her lips like a prayer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. I need you, Jenna said simply. Not for the bargain, not for anyone else? Just for me. Cale's eyes darkened with desire. Are you sure? Once we cross this line, there's no going back. I'm counting on it, she replied, taking his hand and leading him toward the corridor that led to the crew quarters. Zara followed. At a discreet distance, her form shimmering with anticipation. Begin whenever you're ready, she said softly as they reached Jenna's quarters. I will link with you gently. Feel only what you choose to share. Inside the small cabin, Jenna turned. To face Cale, suddenly nervous. The attraction between them was undeniable, but this was about more than just physical desire. This was about trust, about opening herself completely to someone she barely knew, but felt connected to on a level that defied explanation. Tell me what you're thinking, Cale said gently, his hand settling on her waist. I'm thinking that I've never felt this way about anyone, Jenna admitted. I'm thinking that I'm terrified and excited and completely out of my depth. Good, he said with a smile that made her heart skip, because I'm feeling exactly the same way. When he kissed her again, it was different from before, slower, deeper, full of promise rather than desperation. Jenna felt her defenses crumbling, all the walls she'd built around her heart dissolving under the gentle pressure of his lips. She was dimly aware of Zara's presence, a cool touch at the edge of her consciousness, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the man in her arms, and the way he made her feel alive for the first time in months. Their clothes disappeared. With urgent efficiency, and when skin met skin, Jenna gasped at the intensity of sensation. Every touch, every caress, every whispered endearment was magnified by their connection. By the knowledge that they were choosing each other despite all, the reasons they shouldn't. You're so beautiful, Cale, murmured against her throat, his hands mapping the curves of her body with reverent care. So brave, so perfect. Not perfect, Jenna gasped as his mouth found a sensitive spot that made her arch against him. Just yours. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Yours, not owned, not possessed, but chosen, claimed, treasured. It was a declaration of intent, a promise of commitment that went beyond the physical. When they finally came together, it was with a completeness that stole Jenna's breath. This wasn't just sex, wasn't just the meeting of bodies. It was the joining of souls, the creation of a bond that would endure whatever trials lay ahead. She felt Zara's consciousness touch hers more fully then, felt the ancient being's wonder and amazement at the depth of emotion flowing between the two humans. Through Zara's alien perception, Jenna could sense the power of what she and Cale were creating, the pure force of connection that made them more than the sum of their parts. Incredible, Zara whispered, her voice filled with awe. No wonder the Council fears you. This bond, this connection, it's not just emotional, it's evolutionary. It's a new form of consciousness that transcends individual existence. But Jenna barely heard her. She was lost in Cale's eyes, in the rhythm of their joined bodies, in the overwhelming sensation of being exactly where she belonged. When release finally claimed them both, it was with an intensity that left them shaking in each other's arms. In the aftermath, as they lay entwined on the narrow bunk, Zara's form became fully solid again. But something had changed in her golden eyes, a warmth that hadn't been there before. "I understand now," she said softly. "Yeah. The Council was right to fear humanity, but wrong to try to destroy you. What you possess isn't a threat to be eliminated. It's a gift to be treasured." "What happens now?" Jenna asked, not lifting her head from Kale's chest. "Now I return to the Council with a very different report than they expected," Zara replied. "I'll tell them that humanity's gift cannot be weaponized or controlled, only freely given. And I'll spend whatever time I have left ensuring that others understand what I've learned here." She paused, her ancient face softening with something that might have been gratitude. "Thank you, both of you, for showing me that love is not a weakness to be exploited, but a strength that can transform the galaxy." Months later, as reports began filtering in of the plague's sudden retreat of alien worlds opening their borders, 2 human refugees, of the Hegemony Council's collapse under pressure from species who had witnessed humanity's capacity for connection, Jenna and Kale made their own plans. They'd found a small colony world on the edge of explored space, a place where they could build something new together. As their ship approached the planet's surface, Jenna felt Kale's hand slip into hers. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. She looked at him, this man who had saved her from despair and shown her that love was possible even in the darkest of times, only that it took a galactic crisis for us to find each other. "Well," Kale said with a grin, "humans have always been good at making the best of impossible situations." As their ship touched down on the surface of their new home, Jenna realized that Zara had been right. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons or their stubborn refusal to surrender. It was their ability to form connections that transcended every barrier, to find love in the most unlikely places, and to build hope from the ashes of despair. And as she and Kale stepped out into the sunlight of their new world, hands intertwined and hearts united, Jenna knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because that was what humans did. They loved, they connected, and they endured. And in a galaxy full of wonders and terrors, that was more than enough.